made at the California Institution for Men, Chino, California. This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded. To accept this call, say or dial 5 now. Thank you for using Global Tel Link.
Okay.
Go ahead.
All right. Okay. You ready?
Yep.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen and ladies and gents, I'm going to talk about two things today. I'm going to have to pause the video for a second and then continue, but the first thing we're going to talk about is the Federal Arbitration Act. A lot of people are having, after a year and a half, some difficulty in understanding it, especially with some of the rulings that they've been receiving by the courts. So let's go ahead and determine for ourselves and legally whether or not these determinations by the courts have been legal. We're going to take the Federal Arbitration Act. It should be right there in front of you, and we're going to look at section number 1. Now, section number 1, do not worry about the maritime. We're not concerned about maritime, and we're not talking about the islands in the middle of the street and how they are doing this law and that law. That's not what this is about. So let's stick to the simple stuff. We're going to deal just with the fact that transactions meaning contract. People will say transaction doesn't mean contract, but yes, it does, because a transaction is something that takes place between two or more people. There has to be some sort of an agreement. So a transaction is a contract. That's why it says maritime transactions and commerce defined. So it's going to tell us what a transaction is. It's here defined to mean chartered parties, bill of ladings of water concerns, agreements relating to wharfage, and supplies, furnished vessels and repairs and blah, blah, blah. Then it tells us their admiralty jurisdiction, commerce is herein defined to mean commerce among the several states or with foreign nations or with any other territory of the United States or District of Columbia or between any such territory and another, or between any such territory and any state or any foreign nation, and between the District of Columbia and any state and territory or foreign nation. Now, let's make sure you know that this includes you. You are considered an instrumentality. You are a member of a foreign state, because remember, all the states are unions of the United States, making it one complete state. So, this involves you. If your contract involves any other government, any other entity, and involves commerce, section number 1 applies. It really is that simple. Section number 2, as long as it involves commerce and the contract has an arbitration clause, then it is a valid, binding, and enforceable agreement safe upon the grounds as exists in law and equity. You'll go ahead and read that right in it as section number 2 and number 1 applies that upon the grounds of law and equity. So, Federal Arbitration Act applies to the contracts. Now, wait a minute. What if I use a contract template and I add my information to it? Does that invalidate the contract? No, because anybody can use whatever contract template they want. As long as the parties agree to the terms, then the contract is binding, unless and until it is proven that the contract is unconscionable. Now, unconscionable means that nobody in their right mind would agree to something like that. But the contracts that are put up online for people, the templates, are put up online to make sure that they are held reasonable, to make sure that they are not asking somebody to do the impossible. That's what would make it unconscionable. All right, section number 3. Section number 3 is important because this is what highlights that the contract, and then we've got to talk about section number 1 again. So let's talk about section 3 first, and then we'll go back to section number 1. Section number 3 talks about the staying of a litigation as a result of a contract evidencing an arbitration clause. And if there is a litigation in a court, then it says the party may ask the court for a stay pending the motion to confirm, not confirm, but the motion to, maybe I should be reading it. What is that word? To force somebody into arbitration. So with a motion to compel arbitration. So that's section number 3. And if you notice, section number 3 says in part that they shall stay the litigation pending the outcome. Okay? So unless the arbitration and the contract between the parties have nothing to do with the court proceeding, don't have to stay it. Now, the Supreme Court says that the court must stay the proceedings if the proceedings deal specifically with arbitration. They say that is a guarantee. All right, let's get back to section number 1. Look at the very last sentence where it says, or any other class of workers engaged in foreign or interstate commerce. Now, Supreme Court has talked about this in depth, saying Congress has the right to regulate commerce, meaning they had the right to put such a provision, such as the Federal Arbitration Act, together. And that's why you see commerce mentioned in section number 1 and section number 2. Congress was wanting to show their authority over the common law right to arbitrate. So as long as it involves commerce, then Congress has the jurisdiction to regulate it by the Federal Arbitration Act. But you notice it says, or any other class. We've had it, because I've done a class action arbitration, and we've had the class action arbitration challenged in court by judges and by the opposing party. They are claiming that I needed to get a certificate from the court of establishing a class for a class action. So section number 1 says that there is no such certificate. You know, let's take a look at it. You'll see that there's no such thing as having to apply to the court for classes of workers. All right, we're going to skip section number 4. We're going to skip all of section number 4, even though some of that is applicable. We're going to go to section number 5. Some courts have been saying that Sitcom Arbitration Association is not a valid entity, not a valid arbitration entity. Now let's find out if that's the case. Look at number 5. I said verse, I apologize. You know what I talk about most of the time. It says the appointment of arbitrators or umpires. If in the agreement provision is made for a method of naming or appointing an arbitrator or arbitrators or an umpire, such method shall be followed. This is what makes the arbitration association or the arbitrator, the arbitrators or the umpire valid. It is not the courts. Now, the reason why they're saying this is because they're so used to handling state arbitrations that are under state law. And under state law, with state arbitrations, yes, the arbitration association has to be registered here and accepted here, and the members should be attorneys and individuals with such and such experience. But the Federal Arbitration Act does not require that. It just requires that the parties have to agree to the arbitrator. It even says that if they hadn't agreed, then there's another manner by which the courts may assist. But other than that, they have no say-so. Now, the validity of a reasonable and fair arbitration association is that they give both parties an opportunity to respond, and that they, in rendering their decision, do not commit fraud.
This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
Do not do any miscalculations. Those are the basics. And I am positive the Sitcom Arbitration Association does their best to be reasonable, that they do not commit fraud, and they try not to have miscalculations. If they find that a mistake was made, I have found myself personally that they correct it as soon as possible. Let's go to section number, we're going to leave 7 and 6 alone, and we're going to go all the way down to number 9. Number 9 lets you know that once you get your arbitration award, you can take it to the court where the award was issued, or any other district and or area where one of the parties may reside, or wherever the parties agreed, in the court where the parties agreed. What I am telling everybody is that you take it outside the district where the arbitration award was issued. Why do I give that information to people? Because the motion to vacate the award or challenge the award can only be done in the district where the award was issued. So if you get your award confirmed in the same district, then they can put in a motion to vacate in that same court, and the court can hear it. However, if you get it done in a different district, they will have to go to the district where the arbitration award was rendered in order to get that decision. Now, if you pay attention, they have up to a year. Section number 9 says they have up to a year to get the award confirmed. The parties can agree by contract to extend it. Now, because we have case law saying that the courts are very hostile towards arbitration, they have been interfering with it. So what we are suggesting is now having the arbitrators extend the time for people to get their awards confirmed. And so I'm finding out that that's what they're going to do.
This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
that they're going to be extending that time. Now let's continue with number 10 and 11. 10 and 11 is the grounds for vacating an award. Now, if they claim fraud, then if anybody claims fraud, you just have to look at Federal Rule of Civil Procedure number 9. Those are the elements of fraud that must be proved. The court cannot bring up a claim of fraud. This specifically says the other party. See, it says any party. The court's not a party to the award. So if you look at the last sentence of A of 10, it says any party to the arbitration. Please understand, any party to the arbitration. So upon application by any party to the arbitration, the courts is not a party to the arbitration, so the courts can't do it upon their own motion, even if they wanted to. They don't have the authority. They must follow the act that's written. That's Archer versus Henry Schein. Okay? They must follow the act that's written. Number 11 deals with the same miscalculations and modifications and so forth. So then we go to the most important, and we're going to stop at number 12. The rest of them you guys can go over on your own. Number 12 simply says this: notice of a motion to vacate, modify, or correct an award must be served upon the first party and the attorney within 3 months. They have 90 days. So I have suggested from the beginning that people wait 90 days before getting their award confirmed. Why? Because after the 90 days has passed, that is their grace period. That's their statute of limitation. They cannot challenge the award after that. So that's why I've said to everybody, wait past the 90 days. Now, after you wait past the 90 days, then go and get it confirmed. Now, notice this. It says, right after it says, served upon the adverse party and his attorney within 3 months after the award is filed and delivered. Pay attention to the next two sentences. If the adverse party is a resident of the district wherein the award was made, such service shall be made upon the adverse party or his attorney as prescribed by law for the service of notice of motion of action in the same court. Motion to vacate must be done, ladies and gentlemen, in the court in the district where the award was made. That is per the Federal Arbitration Act. They cannot do it where they want to do it. They have to follow the law, the act that's written. So when we tell you that I am 100%, 1,000% positive that the Federal Arbitration Act works in our favor every single time, I guarantee it. Now, as I mentioned before, many people have been shying away. We have 3 cases in the court right now, 3 of them on appeal. We have one of them where they have had a magistrate rule against us who we never consented to. So the first thing you put in your motion to confirm arbitration is you do not consent to a magistrate. Okay? In order for them to give you a magistrate, you must sign the consent form. You must agree to a magistrate. The same as the parties must agree to arbitration, you must agree by contract to a magistrate hearing your matter. We had a magistrate hear the matter, never allowed us to respond, never allowed us to put any paperwork in, took the other person's response, didn't allow us to rebut it, and made a decision based on that. That case will be brought back in court. They responded out of time, and we will end up getting that. Now, that case is for $600 million, and they're not happy with that because it's against the prison system here, and that's the class action one. Then we have another one where they are claiming that we did not have the right to let SICOM Arbitration Association act as process server. Okay, SICOM Arbitration Association has not handled a single arbitration.
You have 60 seconds remaining.
It has always acted as process server. Because there's such a long line, I'll have to continue this video in just a second, so I'll be right back. You see, that wasn't that long at all. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to now transition from the Federal Arbitration Act. As I was mentioning about the Federal Arbitration Act, it is my suggestion, those of you who have those contracts that you've been sitting on, that you've already served upon everybody, get your arbitrations done now. Let them vacate it, because we're going to go ahead and take all of the ones that they're vacating the awards and doing them falsely, and we're going to go before the circuit court for the federal district at D.C. to have that overturned. Okay? And we will let all of you know and let all of you join in that appeal to get this matter resolved. As I mentioned to you, and I don't care if they try to use this against me, I could care less. This was a plan. We knew exactly what they were going to do in advance. Was prepared for their stupidity. Now, let me show you how else we were prepared. Go back through the EEON YouTube channel. Look at the videos that deal with TTOPP and deal with Ebola. And notice how everything that's going on now is what I was telling you all about. Now, this is my opinion. If it happens, then everybody and their grandmama can say, "You the man." It's not going to be proud of it happening, but if it happens, it happens. This virus is in every country, including Africa. Now, do your research. Type in Google, look for Ebola in Africa, and see if it has been wiped out. Remember, the last time it took 2 years, 2014 and 2016. The current Ebola outbreak has been going on, according to them, since 2018. This is 2020. Check with the Democratic Republic of Congo and see if Ebola has been eradicated, or Uganda, where it had already crossed the border, and see if it has been eradicated. Now, can you imagine Ebola and COVID-19
This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
coming together and having a party? The other day, last Wednesday, President Trump declared martial law. Okay, when President Trump, and I hate saying those two words together, because he said there's some very big words. He said that national emergency were two big words. Nobody paid attention. So go ahead and get a copy of the Trading with the Enemies Act. It is Title 12, Section 95A, Section 95B. Get a copy of the Trading with the Enemies Act, and then just type in national emergency. Get the Act of March 9, 1933, type in national emergency. You will notice that phrase is used, and national emergency is used in the Trading with the Enemy Act exclusively. It is where the president's war powers come from. So go back and listen to his speech when he declared a national emergency, and notice how he says that he has all of the power of the federal government. Did anybody pay attention to that? Because I did. Ladies and gentlemen, there is no such thing as all of the powers of the federal government, because the United States, the government is supposed to be divided up into 3 branches, separation of powers. No one branch is supposed to have all of the power. It was that way by design. So how did he get all of the powers of the federal government? Because of the amendment, March 9, 1933, and the Presidential Proclamation to the Trading with the Enemies Act. That's how. That's why Congress said in 1973 in their congressional records that they had bestowed upon the president extraordinary powers that he can operate and act without normal constitutional process. They have suspended the Constitution by declaring a national emergency. What else does a national emergency do? Let me explain. Last night, California has basically shut down all restaurants, can't eat inside anymore, and bars, can't go there no more. Oh, and I hear Rhode Island and New Jersey is installing curfews, so you can't be on the street after 8 o'clock. Ladies and gentlemen, does anybody understand what that sounds like? That's called martial law. They're not using the term yet, but if you look at the quarantining of places, the National Guard being called in, ladies and gentlemen, that's called martial law. Now, the United States said they only have 600 and some people infected, or 3,000, or whatever number they're claiming, and 69 people dead. Pay attention to these estimates that they're giving you. When they were first telling you that they only had 200 people infected and only 17 dead, they weren't telling you that they only had 455 test kits out there, and half of those test kits that they put out there did not work. Now, you all heard them say that many of the test kits did not work. Why? Why would they give them test kits that don't work? And why haven't they replaced them and introduced the millions of test kits they said they were going to introduce? The very same reason they're allowing this. They're doing like China. China's numbers have been going down. China's numbers shouldn't be going down. China's numbers are going down because they're not reporting all the cases. By distributing fewer test kits, that means their numbers will remain low until they do distribute more test kits. That's why the doctors are saying it's going to get bad. As soon as more test kits are distributed, it will get very bad. That's what they're doing. It's all on purpose. As I said, go back, listen to the videos. You'll see that I've already talked about all of this. Can't tell all of you what to do right now because it's not that time. But stay tuned. Those of you, some people are worried about money. If you look at the contracts, every single one of them already has a clause embedded in it that says that when it does pay out, it is at the rate of the valuation of money back from 1987 to 1999 at its highest rate during that period of time. And it also says the contract is incapable of being invalidated, incapable of being expunged. The contract is enforceable up to a certain number of years under the Federal Arbitration Act. There is no end to the contract. The national emergency does not overrule the Federal Arbitration Act, nor does it overrule the contract between the parties, because the United States, even if they wanted to, cannot impede the obligation of contract. All right, there's so much more for me to say, but I'm going to go ahead and cut it short right there to deliver this information to you, to let all of you know that if you will definitely understand and have a little bit of faith that I wasn't going to let this go. Told you all of this was a plan. This is not the first time. Those of you who've known me for a while know that this is the type of thing I do. So just hang in there and know that I've not given up on a single ounce of any of this, including my defrauded homeowners of America. I have to go through the appeals in order to make that one solidified. So we're going to go ahead and cut this short, and I want to thank all of you for taking the time to grab a hold of this. Download these videos and save them, because eventually they're going to remove this stuff from there. Sorry, just like they're doing in China. Any negative information, they're removing from the internet. Why? Because they don't want you guys to know. Somebody pay attention. When was the last burial of any of these people who have died from COVID-19? They can't bury them because it's a communicable disease. They have to cremate them. So how come we're not hearing anything about the cremations? Go ahead and check on the Google and do sulfur dioxide levels in China, and notice how those levels are off the chart, because they've been cremating quite a bit of bodies nonstop every single day, because more people are dying in China than they're letting on. Okay, you don't believe me? Do your research. All right, and stay away from that fake news. Okay, don't want y'all picking up on the fake news. So try to distinguish between articles that are supported by fact and articles that are supported by opinion. If it's someone's opinion, you will be able to tell that they're giving their opinion. Without them saying that they're giving their opinion, they will make suggestions. That lets you know it's an opinion. You notice me? I'm not giving my opinion. I try very hard not to do so. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, ladies and gents, all of you have a very good day, and we will speak again. Goodbye.